Hi there, I'm Julie Tam, managing broker at Lynn Realty, a brokerage serving generations of clients in the greater Houston area and from around the world since 1981. You can find me on har.com, that's homes and rentals, as Yao Tam. Thank you so much for joining me this week for another edition of my weekly Wednesday video series, Smarter Real Estate, where I give you practical strategies to make you a smarter buyer, seller, tenant, or landlord, and also take you along on some of my real estate adventures. Now, these videos are shot in one take and not edited. Today, I find myself in the River Oaks shopping area in a condo community called the Renaissance at River Oaks, where our company actually manages. We'll let that noisy car go by. Our company actually manages a few of these condos in both the buildings that you see across the street and the one I'm at right now. I'm at the C building, that's C as in Charlie. I'm gonna be listing this unit here coming up very soon this month, so be sure to check it out by going to har.com and typing into the search bar for homes for rent, the address 2100 Welch, and then put the unit C312. It's actually better if you just type 2100 Welch and then let the list drop down with some unit options that you can click, because sometimes the formatting of the way you search for something and type a certain address a certain way, it won't bring up all of the results properly. But it is C as in Charlie 312, that is the unit number. We are in zip code 77019, which is one of the most desirable zip codes in the Houston area, and this community is zoned to some of HISD, the Houston Independent School District's most desirable public schools, which would include River Oaks Elementary, Lanier Middle, and Lamar High School. All right, today we are actually talking about, while I'm out here today talking about a rental condo, rental qualifications, what it takes to qualify to rent a home, and specifically the homes that our company leases and manages. I'm gonna slowly pan around just so you can see the grounds here, and then I'll walk back into the condo and show you around while I go through some of these areas of qualification. Okay. So when you are applying to rent a home, you are going to have to fill out an application form. And what we require is an application form for every adult that's over 18 who will be occupying the property. So even if you don't make income, even if someone is a stay-at-home, or even if there's a young adult in the family who's maybe only 20 years old, they still have to be on the lease as a responsible party. And there could be exceptions to this rule in special circumstances, but I'm talking in most cases. And so with that application, you're going to have to submit some supplemental documents that actually support your application and that show proof of certain things. We are looking for what your credit is, your rental history, your income, any information about how many people would be occupying the home, and also pets and any criminal history. We qualify based on all of those things as a whole. So we look at everything together. We don't look at just one element. And so you would not be disqualified necessarily based on just one element of your application. Okay, so let's talk about credit. So we get sometimes a comment from people, which is if they have bad credit and they're trying to rent a home from us, they'll say, well, if I had good credit, don't you think I would be buying instead of renting? So in other words, that we should expect that renters have bad credit, which could not be further from the truth. And here's why. A lot of people rent a home not because they can't afford to buy or because they don't have the credit to buy, but maybe they're just not ready to buy. They're just relocating to a new place. They don't even know the area yet. They just want to get to know the area and figure out what they like. And so they're just not ready to buy. So also they may only be in that city, say, for a short period of time before they move on. And so they don't want to buy a home and put down roots just yet. They just want to rent for now and not have the hassle of a home that they've still got to then sell when they move on to a different place. So, and also maybe they don't want to buy a home because they're thinking they may be getting married soon or some other change in their life that may then bring about, the opportunity to buy with that new person. Or maybe they're getting a divorce and they, don't want to buy a home that would be the size, for the current members of the family, but maybe the future fewer members of the family. So there's so many different situations here. Now your credit, we look at your entire report. It's not just about the score. We don't have a minimum score requirement. A lot of times if you think about buying a home, the lender's going to have a minimum score requirement. Certain scores will get you certain interest rates, and obviously the lower the score, the higher your interest rate would be, which is negative, right? But what we're looking at for renting is, do you pay most of your bills bills on time. Some of the most important bills to be paid would be your housing expenses. So if we see a collection on your credit for an apartment complex you used to rent an apartment at and you didn't pay and you owe a lot of money, well, that's not going to look really good because that means you're probably not going to pay us. Okay, and so we are also looking for your car payments. Your housing and your vehicle, are really essential. You need to live somewhere and you need something to get around in. So if you're not really making those basic payments, that doesn't really look good for you. We also want to see that you're making credit card payments, anything that's recurring. Student loans, sometimes if you get behind on those, they can be forgiven to some extent. Medical bills that are unexpected, we can possibly forgive some of those, but anything that you're expected to pay for, your cell phone bill, your utility bill, that's recurring and to expect it, then we really want you to be responsible for those. Now, along those lines, as far as credit score, so we have seen some people with perfect credit. In other words, all their accounts are positive. There's no blemishes on their credit report, but they just have a lower score, even in the 500s. So that doesn't necessarily mean they have bad credit or wouldn't be a responsible tenant. Sometimes that person just has very little credit. Maybe they only have one credit card, for example. And so when you don't have a lot of credit, you don't have a lot of activity that helps to build up your score. And so that's a reason for a lower credit score. Also, the person could be young, okay? If you don't have established credit for a long time, you also may not have a very high credit score. So we take all those factors into account. Another important area I mentioned is rental history. This also includes home ownership history. So in case you've never rented before and you've always owned a home, but now you're moving to a new city for a new job or to be closer to a certain family and you finally have to rent, of course we take into consideration if you have home ownership history and you have a good track record of paying your mortgage on time. Of course, if you have rental history, we will have your current landlord or property manager fill out a form that tells us if you pay rent on time, have any of your payments bounced, that was a return check when you paid and so it was not for good funds. Did you take care of that property? Was there any reason that the landlord would not lease to you again? All those types of questions that they would then fill in to give us an idea of how you might be as a tenant for us. And then of course your income. You have to submit proof of income and we'd like to see your past month's worth of income, either through paycheck stubs or direct deposits into your bank account, so your bank statements, or if you run your own business and you have tax returns or things like that. So we want to see that you have enough income to afford the property. There's not an exact amount, but we'd like to see somewhere between 2 to 3 times the monthly rent as your income per month. And that is because, that is just the industry standard. But we say 2 to 3 times because, one person may make 3 times the rent, but they may have a car payment, for example, whereas another person may not have a car payment and they may make only 2.5 times the rent, right? And so those could potentially equal out depending on how much that car payment is and how much the income is versus the rent. All right, we also look at pets. So we accept pets on a case-by-case basis. It may depend on the landlord's preferences for that particular home. That's my purse back there, by the way. And also, it could be rules that the HOA or the Homeowners Association or the Condo Association enforces. So some of these associations will have restrictions on the number of pets and also the type of pets. It could be the certain breeds of dogs are not allowed. Even insurance companies have such a restriction. So if the landlord has insurance on the property, which they really should have and we require, then of course, I'm going to close this door because it's getting really loud out there and there's some jackhammering going on. So yes, some insurance companies will not insure the landlord's property if there are certain pets on the property, like known aggressive dog breeds, for example, because there's a liability that pet could injure or even worse, basically essentially bite or harm a neighbor, for example. So the insurance company doesn't want to have that liability, so then they won't allow that landlord to lease to someone with that type of pet. And so there are some of those types of restrictions there. And we also are looking for how many people will be occupying the home, because of course some cities have ordinances for that. They may not want a 2-bedroom condo to be leased out to 20 people, okay? And also some homeowners associations have restrictions regarding single family. So if you have a house, they're expecting that only one family, so everybody that's part of the family to be related by blood or marriage, and then you could have one additional person who's not related to that family living there, but not more than that. So in that case, if there is such a restriction, we could not lease to, for example, 3 unrelated housemates or roommates. Okay, so that is also a factor. We, of course, look at a lot of other details like your move-in date when we're weighing one application against another. If there's a multiple application situation, we, of course, are going to want to have someone move in sooner rather than later, so that way the landlord can start collecting rent. And then also if you're offering a price that's higher than the list price, for example. So there's a lot of different factors, and we look at everything in your application. We make sure that everything is filled out completely and that we have everything we need to make a good decision. So the best thing you can do for yourself is when you fill out that application, be sure to fill in every blank truthfully and honestly, and even on criminal history. Okay, so of course, you know, we are not going to deny someone just because they have a criminal history. There are certain crimes that are less severe and that are less concerning that we could approve based on. There are also, again, those owner associations that we are not affiliated with, but it could be the homeowners association for that neighborhood that has restrictions on criminal history. So then if we have to submit the application materials to them for final approval, then they could actually make a decision to deny your application, and that would be not up to us. Okay, if you have any questions about this, any comments at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me to ask, either by sending a message or commenting. I hope you will like this video and also follow me on Facebook and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. If you have any ideas for future videos you'd be interested in me covering certain topics on, please also don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. Thank you again for watching my weekly Wednesday video series, Smarter Real Estate, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.